The text message wasn't meant for me. Jessica's iPhone had synchronized with our shared iPad while she was in the shower, and that's when I saw it pop up. Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about how you felt inside me. When can I see you again? My hands trembled as I stared at the notification from someone named Mike from marketing. I had never heard of him before, despite being married to Jessica for 8 years. The timestamp showed 9:47 a.m., just 15 minutes ago, while she was getting ready for what she told me was a crucial client meeting. I could hear the shower still running upstairs in our suburban Boston home, giving me time to dig deeper. Opening her messages, I found hundreds of exchanges dating back 3 months. The conversations ranged from explicit sexual details to casual planning of their meetups at the Marriott downtown. What hit me hardest wasn't just the physical betrayal, it was how they laughed about me, sharing jokes about how I was too busy with my startup to notice anything. "Poor James," she had written. "He actually believes I'm working late on Thursdays. If only he knew I was bent over your desk instead." I felt sick to my stomach, but forced myself to keep reading. They had even discussed their future together. Jessica had promised Mike she'd leave me once my company's upcoming IPO went through, taking half of everything I'd built from scratch over the last decade. The shower stopped. I quickly forwarded key screenshots to my email and restored the iPad to its original state. When Jessica came downstairs in her business attire, perfect makeup, and favorite Cartier bracelet, the one I'd given her for our 5th anniversary, she kissed my cheek like any other morning. "I might be late tonight, honey," she said, grabbing her designer handbag. "Big presentation for the Newman account." I watched her lie to my face with practiced ease, remembering a message I'd just read where she told Mike she'd booked them a suite at the Four Seasons for tonight. My blood boiled, but I maintained my composure. "No problem," I replied, sipping my coffee. "Good luck with the presentation." As soon as her Mercedes pulled out of the driveway, I called my lawyer, Marcus. He'd been my friend since college and had warned me about not getting a prenup. I dismissed his concerns back then, believing Jessica and I would be different from other couples. "I need you to clear your schedule today," I told him, my voice steadier than I expected. "And I need you to connect me with the best private investigator in Boston. We have work to do." "James, what's going on?" "I just discovered my wife is sleeping with someone from her office, planning to take half my company after the IPO. I want everything documented, and I want it done quietly. I'm not letting her take what I've spent my life building." There was a pause on the line. "Come to my office. Now. And James? Don't do anything stupid before you get here." I grabbed my laptop, the iPad, and headed out. But first, I made 2 calls. One to my bank to freeze our joint accounts, and another to our neighbor Emma, who had mentioned seeing Jessica's car parked at a hotel downtown multiple times when she was supposedly at client meetings. As I drove to Marcus's office, my mind was already formulating a plan. Jessica thought she was so clever, but she'd forgotten one crucial detail about my company's digital security system. I had access to every corporate email account, and Mike from marketing was about to learn why you don't mess with the CEO's wife. Marcus's office was a fortress of mahogany and leather, overlooking the Boston Harbor. As I shared the screenshots and messages with him, his expression darkened. The private investigator he'd called in, Linda, took rapid notes on her tablet. "Your wife's not as careful as she thinks," Linda said, scrolling through the evidence. "These hotel meetups leave a paper trail. If she's using your joint credit cards or company expenses, she is," I interrupted, pulling up our banking records. "Every Thursday, there's a charge from the Marriott bar. She's been coding it as client entertainment in her expense reports." Marcus leaned forward. "That's corporate fraud, James. Combined with the evidence of her planning to exploit the IPO, we have leverage." While they worked, I accessed the company's email server. Mike Thompson, senior marketing director, had been with us for just 4 months. His corporate emails with Jessica were professional on the surface, but riddled with subtle innuendos and coded meeting requests. The bastard had even submitted expense reports for their working dinners. My phone buzzed, Jessica checking in. "Meetings running long. Don't wait up for dinner. Love you." face blowing a kiss. I watched the message notification fade, remembering how she used to send me real love notes, not these hollow lies. The woman I married had disappeared, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. Linda's voice pulled me back. I've got something. Your neighbor Emma's dashcam caught them together last week. They didn't just meet at hotels. They've been using your house when you travel. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Our bedroom, our home, the space we'd built together was just another stage for her performance. There's more, Linda continued. Based on their communication patterns, this isn't Mike's first office affair. He has a history at his previous companies. 3 complaints of sexual harassment were settled quietly. And Jessica? I asked, dreading the answer. Linda hesitated. There are inconsistencies in her employment history. The gaps she listed as freelance consulting? They align with departures from 3 different firms. Always right after executive divorces. The implication was clear. This wasn't just an affair. It was a pattern. Jessica was a predator who targeted successful men, and I was just her latest mark. Marcus gripped my shoulder. We need to move fast but smart. If she realizes you know, she'll destroy evidence, Linda finished. And based on these messages, she's already laying groundwork to paint you as emotionally abusive. Classic preemptive strike. I thought of the subtle ways Jessica had been reshaping our narrative. The hints to friends about my controlling behavior. Her recent suggestions that I seek therapy for anger issues I'd never shown. Even her sudden interest in documenting our arguments on her phone. What's my next move? I asked. Marcus pulled out a legal pad. First, we protect the company. I'm calling an emergency board meeting to suspend all IPO preparations. Then His voice faded as my phone lit up with another message. This one was from Mike to Jessica, accidentally copied to her work email. Got the documents you asked for. Everything about the IPO structure, shareholder agreements, and James's personal holdings. We'll review them tonight after you fire me for making a pass at you in front of the team. I stood up, rage coursing through me. Change of plans. They're meeting at the Four Seasons tonight. And I think it's time I had a chat with our marketing director about proper corporate ethics. James, Marcus warned. Whatever you're thinking. Don't worry, I replied, a cold smile forming. I'm just going to give them exactly what they want, a scene they can document. But first, I need to make some calls to the SEC about suspicious trading patterns. After all, as CEO, it's my duty to report potential corporate espionage. Linda's investigation moved with frightening efficiency. By late afternoon, she had assembled a detailed dossier that made me question everything I thought I knew about my marriage. Jessica hadn't just betrayed me. She'd fabricated her entire identity. Her master's degree from Northwestern? Never completed, Linda explained, spreading documents across Marcus's desk. Her previous marketing director positions? She was an assistant who got close to C-level executives, then leveraged affairs into promotions. She's not just a cheater, James. She's a professional con artist. The revelation about her degree hit particularly hard. I remembered the graduation ceremony I'd attended, how proud I'd felt watching her accept her diploma. Had she bought a fake one? Hired an actress? The memory felt tainted like everything else. The board meeting's set for tomorrow morning, Marcus said, checking his phone. I've already drafted the suspension notices for both Jessica and Mike. But there's something else you need to see. He pulled up a series of bank transfers. Small amounts, nothing suspicious on their own, but they formed a pattern. Every month, Jessica had been moving money from our joint account to an offshore bank. I'd been too busy with the company to notice. Classic exit strategy, Linda commented. She's been planning this for longer than the affair with Mike. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Jessica. Hey babe, the Newman team loved the presentation. We're all going for celebratory drinks. Don't wait up. Red heart. I checked the Four Seasons booking confirmation I'd found in her email. Suite 1504, reserved for 8 p.m. The pieces of her evening plans clicked into place. Drinks as an alibi, then sneaking off to meet Mike. What they don't know, Marcus said, reading my expression, is that the SEC takes corporate espionage very seriously. Those IPO documents Mike accessed? Each page was watermarked with a unique tracking code. The moment he opened them from an unauthorized device. We had him, I finished. The security system I'd designed wasn't just for show. Every document Mike had stolen was logged, tracked, and reported. Linda's tablet pinged. Your wife just checked into the Four Seasons bar. Alone. Based on previous patterns, Mike will arrive separately in about 30 minutes. I stood up, straightening my tie. Time for the next phase. Did you handle the other arrangements? Marcus nodded grimly. Hotel security has been briefed. They'll provide access and video footage when requested. The private dining room is reserved under your name, with a clear view of the bar. And the board members? I prompted. 6 of them are already there, supposedly for a casual dinner. They'll witness everything firsthand. I checked my watch. 7:45 p.m. In the reflection of Marcus's office window, I barely recognized myself. The naive, trusting husband was gone. In his place stood someone colder, more calculated. One last thing, Linda said, handing me a small recording device. Everything's admissible in Massachusetts with one-party consent. Just don't. Don't what? Don't let her see you break. That's what she wants, what she's been documenting. She needs you to be the unstable, angry husband to sell her story. I pocketed the recorder, thinking of the countless times Jessica had provoked arguments, phone in hand, trying to capture reactions she could use against me. All part of her long game. Trust me, I replied. She's about to learn that some performances don't go as scripted. As I headed for the elevator, Marcus called after me. Remember, you're not just fighting for your company. Those board members? They need to see the real threat, and it's not you. The drive to the Four Seasons felt surreal. 8 years of marriage, countless memories, all built on lies. But tonight wasn't about the past. It was about ensuring Jessica's carefully constructed house of cards came crashing down, with an audience she never expected. The Four Seasons bar glowed with warm lighting, casting elegant shadows across marble and brass fixtures. Through the private dining room's tinted glass, I watched Jessica perch at the bar, checking her phone every few minutes. She'd chosen a red dress I'd never seen before, probably purchased with our joint account. Board members occupied a corner table, seemingly engrossed in casual conversation. None of them looked my way when I entered, exactly as planned. I ordered a whiskey and settled in to watch the performance unfold. Mike arrived at 8:15, dressed in a suit that probably cost a month's salary. He didn't approach Jessica immediately. They had their routine down to an art. First, he seated himself at the opposite end of the bar, pretending to take a business call. Jessica continued scrolling through her phone, occasionally brushing her hair back in a gesture I once found endearing but now recognized as calculated. My phone buzzed. A message from Linda. Hotel security confirms room access was activated 10 minutes ago. They're keeping the elevator bank under surveillance. I watched Mike finally approach Jessica, their practiced casualness betrayed by subtle touches and knowing smiles. They maintained professional distance, but their body language told a different story. After 15 minutes of apparent shop talk, Jessica gathered her purse, leaving first. Mike waited exactly 7 minutes before following. That's when I moved. The board members rose silently, following at a discreet distance. Marcus had arranged everything with military precision, security cameras recording from multiple angles, key card logs documenting every movement. I took the second elevator, arriving on the 15th floor just as they were entering the suite. The hallway stretched before me, each step carrying the weight of 8 years of lies. I waited 3 minutes, enough time for them to get comfortable, to feel safe in their deception. The key card Linda had obtained worked silently. I opened the door to find exactly what I expected: Jessica and Mike in an intimate embrace, her red dress already partially unzipped. But they weren't alone. I believe this qualifies as a hostile corporate action, I said quietly, as the board members filed in behind me. Jessica's face drained of color, while Mike stumbled backward, frantically trying to straighten his clothes. James, Jessica started, her voice taking on that wounded tone she'd perfected. This isn't what it looks like, I finished. Actually, it's exactly what it looks like. Corporate espionage, fraud, and an elaborate scheme to manipulate our upcoming IPO. Would you like to explain to the board how you plan to handle the shareholder implications? Or should I play the recording of your earlier conversation about stolen documents? Mike reached for his phone, but one of the board members, Catherine Chun, head of our audit committee, stepped forward. Mr. Thompson, I suggest you don't make any calls. The SEC has already been notified about unauthorized access to confidential IPO documentation. Your devices are now subject to federal investigation. Jessica's mask cracked. The vulnerable, wronged wife act vanished, replaced by something harder, colder. You set this up, she hissed. You manipulated this whole situation. No, Jessica, I interrupted, maintaining perfect calm. I just provided an audience for your performance. The board needed to see who you really are, not the brilliant marketing executive, not the devoted wife, but the con artist who's been orchestrating corporate takeovers through seduction and blackmail for the past decade. She lunged for her purse, probably reaching for her phone to record whatever reaction she could provoke. But Catherine's assistant had already secured it. Inside, they'd find not just her phone but a USB drive containing proprietary company data, all logged and tracked through our security system. The suite fell silent as Jessica realized the magnitude of her miscalculation. The carefully constructed facade she'd maintained for years crumbled before a room full of witnesses. Her eyes darted between faces, searching for sympathy but finding only professional disdain. The offshore accounts were a nice touch, I said, maintaining my composure. Very thorough. But did you really think I wouldn't notice the money transfers? Or was that part of your plan too? Giving yourself just enough rope to ensure a generous divorce settlement. You don't understand. She tried again, this time directing her words to Catherine. James has been mentally abusive, controlling. I had to protect myself. By stealing proprietary company information? Catherine interjected, her voice sharp. By engaging in documented corporate espionage? Miss Williams? Or should I use your real name, Jennifer Wilson? Your previous identity before you changed it in 2012. The color drained from Jessica's face. Linda's investigation had been thorough indeed. Mike finally found his voice. I want my lawyer. Excellent idea, I replied, nodding to Marcus, who had quietly entered the room. You'll need one. The SEC takes a particular interest in cases involving premeditated theft of IPO documentation, especially when the perpetrator has a history of similar actions at previous companies. Jessica's mask shattered completely. You stupid bastard, she snarled, all pretense of victimhood vanishing. You think you've won? I've got enough documentation of your emotional abuse to what? I interrupted. To support the narrative you've been carefully crafting? Every argument you've secretly recorded? Every angry outburst you've documented? The board has seen the real performance tonight. And unlike your carefully edited videos, this one comes with multiple witnesses and professional security footage. Marcus stepped forward, handling a thick envelope. Mrs. Hayes, this is your formal termination notice, along with a cease and desist order. You'll find similar documentation for Mr. Thompson. The company will be pressing criminal charges for corporate espionage and fraud. The evidence has already been submitted to the relevant authorities. I watched the realization hit her. There would be no lucrative divorce settlement, no carefully orchestrated victim narrative, no generous severance package. Instead, she faced federal charges, professional ruin, and the destruction of her elaborate con. The Cartier bracelet, I added quietly. The one I gave you for our anniversary? You can keep it. Consider it payment for teaching me the most valuable lesson of my life. Trust should be earned, not freely given. Marcus guided the board members out, followed by hotel security escorting Mike. As Jessica stood alone in the suite that was meant to be her stage, I saw her for what she truly was, not the confident manipulator, Not the loving wife she'd pretended to be, but a hollow shell whose greatest performance had finally fallen flat. Your personal items will be shipped to your mother's address in Phoenix, I said, turning to leave. Though I suspect that's another lie in your carefully crafted biography. The divorce papers will arrive tomorrow. Don't bother contesting them. Linda's full report makes fascinating reading for a judge. James, she called out, one last attempt at manipulation. Everything wasn't a lie. I did love you in my way. I paused at the door, remembering every fake smile, every calculated touch, every moment I treasured that had been nothing but careful choreography. No, Jessica, I replied, not looking back. You loved what I could give you. There's a difference. I closed the door on her response. In the elevator, descending to where Marcus waited with finalized documentation and next steps, I felt lighter than I had in months. Tomorrow would bring corporate restructuring, legal proceedings, and the media storm that would inevitably follow. But tonight, I had done what needed to be done, protected my company, exposed the truth, and freed myself from a web of lies 8 years in the making. The last message I sent that night wasn't to Jessica, or Marcus, or even Linda. It was to my board. IPO proceedings will resume next week. Turns out we had a security breach to address first. Consider it handled. Thank you for listening the story to the end. Write your thoughts about it in the comments and do not forget to subscribe. See you in the next videos.